Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on Access Network's case study and overcoming the limitations of Agile and Waterfall. For the presentation today, we'll be joined by Nicolas Tremblay. Nick is the Chief Technology Officer for Access Network, and we definitely want to thank him for joining us today. A little background on Nick. Nick received his Bachelor's of Engineering in Computer Science and an MBA from Laval University in Quebec, Canada. He's worked with the management as a management consulting manager at Accenture's communication, media, and technology practice for 10 years and has over 13 years of experience in software engineering with a focus on aerospace, automotive, and consumer goods and services. In October of 2017, Nick joined Access Network as their CTO. The webinar today is being put out jointly by Nick and Access Networks as well as Realization. For those of you that are not familiar with Realization, we provide Concerto, an advanced multi-project management platform for real-time scheduling. And our clients have implemented Concerto, and our software have seen up to a 50% reduction in projects cycle times, as well as 10 to 30% increase in productivity. So with that, I will turn it over to Nick on your implementation at Access Network.
All right, thanks, Michael. So let me start right now with a little introduction of Access Network and what we do. So Access Network is an IoT company that provided a cloud-based solution to the casino industry. So basically, what we do is to connect the casinos of our clients to a cloud-based system, providing them many tools to help them manage their businesses and also improve the security and the integrity of their data. It was founded in 2008, so around 10 years of operation, but 2 years ago, it was bought by a private investing firm that acquired the company and defined a new vision for the technology that we wanted to provide to our client. So this is in that context that I joined the company a few months back, where we have a legacy product that have been developed over the years, but we now have a new roadmap of new technology that we want to deliver to a client, and this is why that investing firm did acquire the companies to bring us to the next level technology-wise. So I'll start with a little background on what we define as a project in our company. So I'm in charge of the whole R&D department, and our main objective in that area of the business is basically to deliver value through projects to the overall company. And the way we can maximize that value is if we plan and execute those projects with excellence. So that's what we're trying to do, and to be able to plan those projects, we came up with a definition of what a project consists. So basically, it's a set of action or a set of work that is bound in time and resources, and that is kind of unique in a way that it's not usual tasks that are going to be repeated over time. It's a unique set of work that needs a specific management process to be able to deliver the overall outcomes on budget and on time. So that being said, I'm just going to give you a little background of where we were, let's say like a year ago, and then we're going to discuss what the solution, what kind of solution we did choose to fix our issue and where we are right now. So to take a step back, at Access, we have many different streams of product. As I said, a lot of them have been developed over the years. So the company is 10 years old. So there's a lot of product that have been developed in their legacy project. And on top of that, I mean, we still have to maintain those projects. And on top of that, we have a new portfolio of product that we want to develop for 3 years or horizon business plan. We already had agile methodology implemented in our developer team to manage the different product streams that we were working on. But the issue was that it wasn't really enforced evenly across all teams, and there was no overall management structure to bring all of that work together. And our team basically had their own product owner working with their own expertise, and was not evenly distributed across the whole company. There was no really differences between maintenance efforts and new product development. And as I said, like, there were no big overall plan to manage all that product portfolio. So all of this resulting in poor due dates. We had difficulty to deliver on time, and that affected our budget performances because projects were taking too much time and too much resources. So they overrun that budget. That brings also an issue with the development cycles. So because there were so many things going on at the same time and there were no vision, software and product took a longer time to develop. And because people were not focusing and tried to multitask a lot, it brings also up some quality issue. We had a really high level of work in progress. People were working from one project to another because there were no overall planning. There was fight over resources, so we have a limited amount of expert in certain domain that are required at specific times during each of these projects. But because it was not planned ahead of time, sometimes there were those resources were overbooked, and people were fighting to get them work on the product. So it brings also conflicting priorities, because basically people were working on the project that the manager was the loudest, basically the one who was able to push the most for his project, get the most attention and get the resources, because those priorities were changing from a week to another. It brought confusion to the team, and also frustration, because people were working really hard but they were not able to deliver on time. So that put a lot of pressure on the R&D team to be able to come up with a solution that makes us able to deliver what we sign up for on time and on budget with the team that put the right efforts but can see the results. So that was the situation we were in a few months back. And one avenue we'll look at to bring that into order was CCPM. So I was familiar with the methodology because I've used it in different other projects during my career. So I knew what the benefits were, in the way I brought that to the team. It seems like the perfect solution for us to be able to solve the problem that we have. So as I said, we had multiple projects, but no way of managing the overall portfolio of these projects. So we need to be able to look at an overall picture of what our portfolio is and be able to put priorities on the shared resources, and also put priorities on issue resolution based on which project is due when, and how good it's doing against its original schedule. But CCPM traditional approach involved time boxing scheduling, and it introduced some new problem into our team, because we were used to agile project management with our developer and technical resources. It was kind of hard to be able to put all the scope of a project in time boxes. So it brings new issue, like the time runs out before the plan scope was complete, or there was no way of reallocating resources for the tasks that were done earlier. So the traditional rules of Agile cannot always be followed. As example, the feature by feature development was not always possible. In the scope time box was not a perfect fit for our situation. So the challenge was to be able to get the CCPM benefit of the overall planning and product portfolio management with all the buffering schedules and the visibility that it brings to the management team without sacrificing our agile mentality and the flexibility it gives to our developers. So basically, we do not want to sacrifice small batches of work. We want to keep our daily meeting. We do not want to be planning and building huge project plan that takes months to put together. We wanted to keep it simple. We want our team to be empowered and be in charge of their own schedules. And of course, we wanted to be able to put prioritization on this project and be able to provide to the team the rationale behind why they should work on this task instead of another based on the prioritization that the management team has set. Traditional CCPM did not allow us to do simple planning and give enough power to the team in the decision that they were making on the daily tasks. So we were able to overcome that with what we're going to describe in the next slides, which is a two-tier project planning approach. But just to give you a heads up on what we were able to accomplish with that new methodology, that new way of managing our resources, we were able to cut down from 30 to 40% in the project cycle times. So basically, something that used to take a year before in the planning mode, we're able with the CCPM approach to reduce that by 30 to 40% just the planning cycle. And since it's fairly new approach at our company, we only had 2 projects that were complete using 100% that methodology. But for those 2 projects, we were able to even complete them 30% faster than the original plan. So there's a huge benefit that we're seeing on the acceleration of our project using the CCPM and the Constraint management tool. So here's what I was saying about the two-tier project plan. So that was one of the first solution element that we implemented. It's basically we were able to add 2 tiers of planning. So the first tier, the tier 1, was grouping the activity together to be able to enforce focus and finish kind of mentality and to build stable project plan. So the first step was to define a project template that we're going to use to all our project that was easy enough for people to understand it, was simple to build, so we don't spend full years of building a project plan in Microsoft Project, for example, with 3,000 or 4,000 lines. And by doing so, it was easier to build those project plans and having them stable. So the way we did it is for all the project, we had an analysis phase that defined the scope of a project and the business case and the requirements. And at the same time, we were defining what the design phase will be and in which sprint they will be developed. And at the end of those sprints, like the team was able to estimate at their early time in the process how many sprint they were planning to be required to bring that project to an end. And at the end of the sprints, of course, there was an integration phase and a quality assurance phase and the deployment phase. but the template was the same for all the projects, and they were big boxes that were designed to be simple and allows the team to better understand what the plan ahead was. Once those tier one planning sessions were complete, we were able to go through the tier two level of planning, which is the individual activities. That gives flexibility to manager to do quick change at a daily level based on the input of the team. So basically, that's where we were able to implement the Scrum kind of approach of Agile into our project management schedule. So for each of the sprints, we were able to define subtasks like feature to be developed and be able to manage issue resolution and prioritization at a lower level that we did not add at the tier one level. But it was a good fit for the team to be able to keep the agility that they need to reorganize their daily work based on what was going on during those phases. The second element that we put in place to set up our management process was scope boxing. So basically, in a waterfall approach, you have like one big box that is all the tasks that you need to accomplish to bring your project to an end. With the time box sprint, what we used to do is to allow a fixed amount of time for each sprint, where we put scope in each of those sprints to allow our teams to work in small batches and get better and faster feedback from the customers and better testing. But it was not ideal because it's hard at the beginning to fit functionalities in fixed time box. So sometimes after the sprints end, the feature is not complete, or you didn't have time to do your testing on. You had to skip some design time because you wanted to complete all the scope within that sprint. So that was putting pressure on the team, and that was not ideal for us. So the solution was to move to a scope-based sprint. So basically, we would define what we would develop in one sprint and adjust the length of the duration of that sprint based on the estimation of the team and the progress also of the developers during that sprint. So it allows us to keep small batches of work, but it added on top of that the ability to ensure that we had a comprehensive design and comprehensive testing before moving to the next step. And the third element to our solution was resource sharing. So as I said at the beginning, one of the issue that we had was fighting over resources, because we have really high skill experts in our team that are required at specific phases in the project. And because we had kind of siloed project management mentality before, we had no way to see how those resource contention will occur during the time of this project because they were not planned together. So it was getting project delayed and the confusion about the priorities and what people should work on. So it was really a hard thing for us to manage. And with that CCPM tool, we were able to not only build simple project plan, but we were able to load it with resources and then build a schedule that allows us to minimize the constraint on our scarce resources. And by doing all those three things, we were able to accomplish some really outstanding benefit. So first of all, for the first time, we were able to have a clear visibility and an up-to-date information on our overall portfolio of projects. So that was a great improvement from where we were before, because we were able to easily share status updates across the whole company. And status update were not only are we on time or are we late. We were able to give a precise percentage of completion of that critical chain. We're able to project targeted dates, and these dates change over time based on the work that was complete. And the fever chart dashboard was a really good tool to share with management where we stand across all the projects that we were working on. It was really easy to make other departments and other sector of the company to realize that we had a lot on our plates, and some people were going faster than others, and others were delayed. So we were able to explain and justify why we were using resources in one way or another. It also gave us a better way to manage our priority and to assign the resource at the right resources at the right time. So as I said, at the beginning, we had no portfolio management systems. And with the CCPM and Constraint tool, we were able to build that portfolio and build a schedule that based on what were the management priority, which project was need to be prioritized over another, and what resources would need in each of those projects, and then look at when should we start each of these projects on a timeline to be able to deliver everything on time. So by doing that, it was able to eliminate the confusion and the frustration, because everyone was able to know when they're going to need to work on what, and they had access to the rationale behind this prioritization. And it also allows us to have the flexibility to reorganize the work. So as I said, we had the tier 1 planning where we build our portfolio, but with the tier 2 planning feature, we were able to reorganize that work on a daily basis based on risk and issue escalation. So it's not because we planned 6 months ago that we are going to work on that specific task on that specific date that it will not change over time, because things are changing, priority are changing, and it's always hard to really estimate with accuracy each task of a project, because there's a lot of unknowns when you start. So with the tier 2 approach, we were able to reorganize that work on a daily basis to make sure that our information was always up to date, and we had a clear visibility on the path for resolution when issue occurred. And another great benefit that we were able to achieve was to minimize the resource contention and be able to focus on accelerating our delivery time. So it was it was a big issue within our group that because of the resources constraint, we had to delay project because it was not planned and we needed the same resources at the same time. So with that tool, we're able to look at what the next year or the next 18 months were looking like, and we're able to see that we were going to have a resource contention at some point, so we're able to reorganize project or a plan for hiring new resources. So that's pretty much what I add. So Michael, do you want to add anything else that you've seen in our approach?
No, that's great, Nick. I really appreciate the presentation. We will go ahead and open up the forum to questions. I think some questions have already come in. So, Nick, the first question is, it isn't clear to me how buffers were added to these plans. Do you want to address that, Nick, how you added the buffers after you created the plans?
Yeah, basically the way we added buffer was to have the team sit together, build a realistic plan on how much time they think it would need based on their experience to accomplish those tasks, and then we reduce those tasks by 33%, I think, to create the buffer needed to to build a CCPM plan.
Okay. So you effectively used the application and the tool to cut the task durations and add the buffer without adding more time to the project plan.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like we said this project is going to take 6 months and then we're going to add a 3 months buffer on top of it to make sure that we're going to be on time. It's the reverse process. We all agree that it's going to take 6 months. So now we're trying to do it in 4. And
Great.
then by the daily update that you get from the tool, you're able to see how much buffer you're consuming. So are you on target with your date? Are you going faster, or are you late? So that's how we did manage that.
Okay. I got a couple questions that deal with resources, so maybe I'll blend them together here. Nick, so how large is the organization? How many people are working on projects?
So we have a team of 25 to 30 developers working on different projects.
So are the resources dedicated to one project, or are they shared?
They are dedicated to tasks in a project, but they're not dedicated to one project. So I have developers that may work on 5 different projects, but they will work on one feature at a time. So they're not splitting their time from one project to another. For example, they're not going to spend 2 days working on one feature on one project and the next 3 days on another project. They're going to do, if they're allocated to project A and they need 3 weeks of work to accomplish one feature, there's going to be dedicated to that project for the next 3 weeks. But maybe after those 3 weeks, they're going to jump to another sprint on another project.
And do the resources manage their own work? In the resource pool, do you still have Scrum Masters in the organization?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Has their role?
That's the role of the product owner, basically.
That's the role. And has their role changed through this process, or somewhat remained the same?
It's somewhat remained the same because we kept the agile mentality that we already had. So there was a little bit of training and getting up to speed with that new concept, but the core of their day-to-day task remained the same.
And so how did the tool, was the tool help you, or how do you deal with delays in one project with the fact that you're sharing resources across projects? How do you deal with delays in one project and keeping that from cascading into another project?
So we had a great help from the pipeline manager tool to do that, because in the past, I'll take the example of the current year. So we had 18 projects that are required to be completed during the next year. So management were expecting at any day and time to have an update on all the projects, because they were assuming that we were working on all of these in parallel. So with the tool, we were able to show management in a clear way that here's the backlog of things we need to work on, and here's the resources that we have that can work on this. And it clearly doesn't work if we start working on 18 projects at a time. So here's what is our plan. Here's what are the starting and ending dates. And this is how we build our scope for the next year by trying to minimize the resource contention and setting up starting and finishing date that were possible. So once that was set, of course, when you develop and when you do innovation, it's hard to plan the future because there's so many unknowns. That things happen, stuff gets delayed, you need more time, resources found a bug or an issue that they didn't plan, or the scope changed. So we had to realign. We always have to readjust our time estimation and scope like this. So sometimes when you look at the fever chart and you see that some projects are going to get delayed, we're able to have a discussion with all the stakeholders and say, like, you know what, like the plan doesn't stand anymore. We need to pause the project that maybe is going faster than expected, and reallocate the resource to that project that is getting delayed because it's consuming too much buffer right now. So we're able to manage expectation that way. And because it's clear and it makes sense and it's easy to understand why projects are delayed or accelerated, it's easier to make decisions that everybody's agree on. So that's how we manage to put project on hold and resuming these projects once we were able to reallocate the resources on.
Just the last two questions here, and they're related. In terms of, you mentioned about being able to do focus and finish. About what percentage of the portfolio did you have to put on hold or stop working on in order to focus the organization and achieve this focus and finish approach?
I'll say around like a third of the portfolio.
Very good.
And so 32%.
And even though you're putting a third on hold, in terms of your projected increase in throughput, how many more projects do you expect to do this year than you would have done before?
That's a difficult question, because before everything was expected to be accomplished at the same time and nothing was delivered on time. So we really had like a poor due date delivery. So right now, and that was a little bit like, that the mentality of, if we want to deliver everything on time, we need to start as soon as possible. So that was the kind of mentality that people had. They were starting everything at the same time because they wanted to be able to finish on time. But because resources got multitasking and lost efficiency, we had poor performance on due dates. So right now, what we're able to do is to say, you know what, this project, we won't start it until September. People get stressed about that and they don't like it, but when you show them the whole workload, and when they realize that by doing that you can accelerate the project on the other hand, it's easier to make those decisions and accelerate projects. So based on what we have right now, to answer your question, is if we can accelerate each of our project by 30%, which what we did with the first two, I guess we're going to be able to deliver 30% more project in the next year.
Very good. Okay. Well, I thank everyone for their time today and their questions. And Nick, again, tremendous job. My compliments to you and your organization. I thank you for your time today, and look forward to hearing more about how you're doing in the future. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye.